On Tuesday, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case that could destroy the internet as we know it. This involves Section 230 immunity. So what it does is that it shields online platforms, again, like Facebook, Google, Twitter, from liabilities when they rely on algorithms to serve content. Okay, so look, at the heart of the case was a family who is suing Google because YouTube had recommended an ISIS video. So they thought, oh, that ISIS video radicalized someone, and that's why, my child is dead. So now, that said, they're blaming the algorithms and saying, well, if Section 230 didn't exist, if we got rid of it, well, then these companies would have to no longer rely on algorithms and actually go through and police content manually. So we would have to go through and remove things, but it would have a bigger impact than that, because then it would also make these companies liable for anything that people put on their platforms. Imagine somebody making a terrible comment in your comment section and potentially getting the entire site to shut you down. And so this could be abused by trolls. They could come in and go to a site they don't like, make disparaging comments, and then, of course, could get these platforms in trouble that way, and would lead to a content moderation crackdown that would basically remove anything that could be considered controversial and scrub the internet, essentially. Not a good situation. Okay, so now the case Gonzalez versus Google asks specifically whether Google should be held liable for violating federal law that prohibits aiding and abetting a terrorist organization for making targeted recommendations that promoted ISIS videos. So now that reminds me, by the way, of Adpocalypse. I don't know if you remember that. That was when advertisers found out that some of their ads were also ending up on ISIS recruiting videos. So these companies freaked out. They pulled their ads. That led to massive changes on YouTube, some of which, of course, still impact creators today, because now there's such a thing as authoritative sources of news. So basically what that means is that YouTube whitelists certain organizations, mainly legacy and mainstream news outlets, and the algorithm now knows to recommend those out to the general public, whereas news channels, or I should say political commentary channels such as myself and Humanist Report, Rational National, and of course you also have right-wing sources that don't get recommended out anymore. At least not over those legacy media outlets. And so, look, those changes, again, have changed YouTube to where it's very, very unfriendly towards independent media, whether you're right or left or center or whatever. So that's just one of the effects of this. And if you thought Adpocalypse was bad, get rid of Section 230 immunity, hold them liable for content posted on their platform, and that's it. You've gotten rid of basically YouTube. It's over. Done. So now, ironically, I'm on the side of Google here. It's weird that I'm on the side of big tech. Because again, what Section 230 states is that no provider of an interactive computer service shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information posted by other people. It's very simple. So now Google's general counsel, Halima Delane Prado, told Ars Technica that Congress was clear that Section 230 protects the ability of online services to organize content using, of course, their algorithms. Because look, YouTube has 500 hours of video uploaded every minute. There's no way a human being could organize that content without algorithms. So at some point, you have to have that. That said, of course, do I like the fact that the algorithms don't like independent media? Yeah, of course I hate that. But that doesn't have anything to do with Section 230. That just has everything to do with corporate, greed. But in the case of Section 230, this involves freedom of expression on the internet, literal freedom here. And so when she makes the argument that eroding the protections would fundamentally change how the internet works, making it less open, safe, and helpful, she's actually right. And again, it will also make it less profitable, of course, because then YouTube and Facebook, and they wouldn't have user-generated content because they would have to crack down and massively moderate. Everything would be very bland and milquetoast, and because they would fear somebody being offended. Ironically, I think it would more often be the right wing being super offended at content being put up, and since they would have the money, they would cause endless lawsuits. So that would be an issue. Okay, look, the internet with Section 230, that's why you have diverse opinions online. Without it, companies would be incentivized to eliminate content that would be, again, considered to be controversial or offensive. So this is why, by the way, Republicans in Congress do want to gut it. They want to sue Google for allowing opinions that are not friendly towards the right wing and also not friendly towards businesses and corporations. Now, thankfully, so far, the arguments don't seem to be convincing the judges. Why is that? I mean, we have a right-wing Supreme Court, very conservative, but at the same time, they're also an incredibly pro-corporate court. And that actually might be good for us in a way. And let me get to that. So now legal experts attending the proceedings said that they felt very optimistic that Section 230 would not be repealed, at least by the court. Now, there is a chance that it could be changed in Congress, although Congress also gets a lot of money from these corporations from big tech. So I guess if it ends up getting struck down by the court, or I'm sorry, not struck down by the court, if this was dismissed by the court, very likely won't go to Congress, and we would still have Section 230, and that would be a good thing. Now, these experts say that the Supreme Court's questions almost exclusively focused on what the statute currently says and not any other legal questions, like on how Section 230 guards online speech. Now, remember, the right wing also claims that we need to get rid of Section 230 because they're unfairly going after conservatives. No, they're not. Conservative stuff is everywhere. Conservative opinion, everywhere. It's just that some of these rules say that, well, okay, you can't be openly transphobic, openly homophobic, or openly racist. It kind of gives it away that if they're mad about this because of these content moderation rules that these companies have set up and are removing content as a result of that, well, it just shows you that what they really want to do is be transphobic, homophobic, and racist. So, I mean, it's kind of what their content wants to be. That's why they're mad about it. But they don't know that if they actually are successful in getting rid of 230, then there wouldn't be, I mean, the vast majority of conservative channels, at least on social media, will just be obliterated. Now, let me get to Santa Clara University School of Law professor Eric Goldman, who filed one of the dozens of briefs in support of Google, told a panel audience that because justices seemed to understand the full scope of what's at stake in the case, there was a reason to be optimistic that Google will likely prevail. Justice Elena Kagan, during the arguments, also noted that the algorithms themselves are, quote, endemic to the internet. Every time anybody looks at anything on the internet, there's an algorithm involved. They're how websites tackle the daunting task of organizing and prioritizing material when they are flooded with third-party content. And that's true. That's how it works. Now, interestingly enough, Brett Kavanaugh also defended Section 230, saying that Congress drafted a broad text, that text has been unanimously read by courts of appeals over the years to provide protection in this sort of situation. You want to challenge that consensus, but doing so could crash the digital economy. Now, I think that's very important here. I mentioned pro-corporate court. One of the most pro-corporate courts I think we've ever had. So, of course, what they're looking at is the frame of companies and corporations and saying, well, if you crash the digital economy by making them clamp down on all of this user-generated content and holding these publishers liable, these platforms liable for things that other people, third parties, will publish on them, well, that would destroy everything. And it's true. Now, he also notes, or said in his opinion, why not let Congress take a look at this and try to fashion something along the lines of what you're saying? Or as he put it later, isn't it better to keep it the way it is and put the burden on Congress to change that? Kagan also said this, we're a court. We really don't know about these things. You know, these are not like the 9 greatest experts on the internet. Well, of that, I agree. 100%. Neil Gorsuch, Sotomayor, and Kagan Neil Gorsuch and Sotomayor echoed Kagan and Kavanaugh. Then you had John Roberts, who, again, being incredibly pro-business, talked about the potential lawsuits, saying that billions of responses to inquiries on the internet are made every day. Every one of those would be a possibility of a lawsuit. If plaintiffs could merely assert without evidence that the algorithm showed them defamatory or harmful information, the result may be that the internet will be sunk. Again, ironic, the most pro-corporate court in history actually might get this one right. Obviously for the reasons that they want to protect corporate profits, but as a side effect, they would actually protect the internet, which is, again, freedom of speech and expression online and free and open internet. I care about that far more than I care about the corporations. I don't care about their profit margins, whatever. I actually care about open expression. And that's why, of course, we should continue to hope for the best that Section 230 can and will be protected. Even if it is for the wrong reasons, as long as they get to the right outcome, that's all I care about.